have a way of provoking him. That's what my mother used to say. Not are you hurt? Not he shouldn't have done that. Not even I'm sorry. Just, you know how to provoke him. She said it the first time when I was 12 and sitting on the bathroom floor with my back pressed against the cabinet, holding a damp towel against my ribs. She said it again at 14, at 16, at 17. Every time, the sentence sounded smaller, but the damage it did grew larger. For years, I believed her. My name is Elena Carrington. I'm 26 years old. I work as a trauma nurse in a regional hospital outside Cedar Falls. People assume I'm good in emergencies because of my training. They don't know I was trained long before nursing school. I grew up in a house that never echoed, because in our house, nobody raised their voice. The perfect street. If you drove down Hawthorne Drive, you would have slowed down in front of our house. White siding, black shutters, symmetrical hedges trimmed to identical height, a porch swing that creaked gently in the wind. My father believed in straight lines. The lawn had them. The driveway had them. Even our dinner plates were arranged in perfect alignment. My father, Calvin Carrington, owned a mid-sized construction company, municipal contracts, school renovations, church expansions, the kind of work that made him visible but not flashy. He was a board member at First Covenant Church. He donated lumber to youth retreats. He shook hands firmly. He smiled just long enough to feel warm. My mother, Marianne, wore pastel blouses and spoke softly enough that people leaned in to hear her. If you asked anyone about our family, they would say, solid. That was the word, solid. The first lesson. The first time I understood the rules, I was 9. I forgot to put my bike in the garage. That's all. The door to my father's study closed quietly. He never yelled. That's what confused people. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He didn't throw things. He explained, very calmly, very slowly, and afterward, my ribs hurt. When he left the room, my mother came in. She looked at the bookshelf. She looked at the window. She did not look at me. You know he hates disorder. She whispered, you have to stop testing him. I nodded, because if I didn't nod, that meant I was still testing him, and I had learned that testing him made things worse. My brother. I have a younger brother, Lucas, 3 years younger than me. When we were small, he followed my father around like gravity pulled him. Tool belt, measuring tape, Saturday mornings at job sites. My father never touched him, not once. Back then, I thought that meant Lucas was good, and I wasn't. Children build logic out of whatever scraps they can find. Mine was simple. If he hurts you, you must deserve it, because otherwise your mother would stop it. The emergency room visits. By 14, I had been to the emergency department 4 times. Each time the story was identical. Fell off a ladder, slipped on the stairs, ran into a door. My father's hand always rested on my shoulder when the nurse asked questions. Not tight, just present. At 16, something shifted. The attending physician, a woman with sharp eyes and a badge that read Dr. Halvorsen, examined the bruise along my left side longer than necessary. She asked, does someone at home lose their temper? My father's thumb pressed into the muscle above my collarbone. Just enough. I shook my head. Dr. Halvorsen wrote something down. I didn't know then what she wrote. I would find out years later. But paper remembers. Even when people pretend not to. The exit fund. At 17, I got a job at a grocery store across town, stocking shelves, closing shifts, $10.15 an hour. I didn't ask permission. I just did it. My father found out when he saw the uniform polo in the laundry basket. He folded it once, then again, then placed it on the kitchen table. No daughter of mine needs to work, he said evenly. People will think I can't provide. I kept working. I hid the money inside an old geometry textbook. After 5 months, I had $1,260. Not freedom, but direction. My mother found the envelope once. She held it like it was fragile. She didn't scold me. She didn't praise me. She just said, quietly, you're planning something. Yes, I said. She nodded. She didn't tell him. That was the first time she chose silence in my favor. I didn't realize it then. College. I applied to nursing school without telling anyone. Acceptance letter mailed to a rented P.O. box. When the financial aid statement accidentally arrived at the house, my father opened it at dinner. He read it slowly. Then he tore it into 4 pieces. You don't leave this family without my permission. My mother kept her eyes on her plate. Lucas stared at his fork. I felt something inside me harden that night. Not anger. Resolution. Leaving. I left 2 weeks after my 18th birthday. 2 suitcases. 1 duffel bag. My friend Nora waiting outside in her car. My father was at a project site 40 minutes away. I had checked his calendar. My mother stood at the sink when I carried my bags downstairs. If you walk out, she said softly, Don't expect things to be the same. They already aren't, I replied. I went to Lucas's room. He was 15. He hugged me hard. Will you come back for me? He asked. Yes, I said. I meant it. Silence. The first night in my studio apartment felt like breathing underwater. Terrifying and peaceful at the same time. No footsteps, no doors closing, no controlled conversations, just quiet. 3 weeks later, my mother called. Your father isn't sleeping, she said. The house feels wrong without you. Then, you've embarrassed him. I hung up before she finished. And then came 6 months of nothing. The shift. Everything changed in October. 11:12 p.m. My phone rang. My mother was crying. Not softly, not politely, crying like something had cracked. He started on Lucas, she said. The room went cold. When? After you left. She inhaled sharply. I recorded it. I didn't understand at first. I pressed record on my phone, she said. I didn't know what else to do. For minutes and 18 seconds. That's how long the file was. My father's voice. Calm, controlled, cruel. Lucas crying. A thud. My stomach twisted. Send it, I said. Reputation. Within days, rumors started. That I was unstable. That I had always been dramatic. That I left because I couldn't handle structure. My father moved quickly. He met with church elders. He framed the story. He always framed the story. And then he called me. Come to the founders' dinner, he said. The annual celebration at First Covenant. 200 guests. Local business owners. City officials. Families. Stand with us, he said warmly. Show people we're united. It wasn't an invitation. It was choreography. If I refused, I proved his narrative. If I attended quietly, I validated it. Unless I rewrote it. The records. I requested my medical records. Under federal law, they were mine. 5 ER visits. 3 marked, injuries inconsistent with explanation. 1 recommending child services follow-up. No follow-up occurred. I held those papers in my hands and felt something steady for the first time. Evidence doesn't tremble. People do. The college fund. Then Lucas called from a friend's phone. Dad says if I don't show up smiling at the dinner, he'll drain my college account. $42,000. Every birthday check. Every Christmas deposit. All under my father's control. I need that money, Lucas whispered. There it was. The leash. Hope tied to obedience. Wait, I told him. Just wait. The night before, I laid everything out on my apartment table. Medical records. Audio file. Small Bluetooth speaker. Legal printouts confirming one-party recording consent. I stared at them for hours. What if nobody believed me? What if they chose him? My phone buzzed. Lucas again. I can't pretend tomorrow, he said. Then don't, I replied. The dinner. The fellowship hall smelled like carnations and lemon cleaner. White tablecloths. Gold-lettered programs. Banner. Faith, family, integrity. My father looked immaculate. My mother pale. Lucas rigid in a navy suit. When I walked in, applause started. He hugged me in front of everyone. I did not hug back. Pastor Whitmore introduced him as a pillar of the community, a man of unwavering moral character. Then my father said, Elena, come stand beside me. 200 eyes turned. I walked to the stage, and I felt it. For the first time in my life, he was nervous. I could see it. In the way his fingers tightened against the podium. In the way his smile held too long. I set my bag at my feet, adjusted the microphone, and said, before this award is given, I have something to share. The room shifted. My father leaned toward me. Elena, he whispered, not loud enough for anyone else to hear. Don't. I pressed play, and his real voice filled the hall. The first thing that broke wasn't the silence. It was the illusion. My father's voice echoed through the fellowship hall speakers, calm, measured, terrifyingly controlled. You think you can disrespect me in my own house? Lucas's voice, small. I'm sorry. A thud. A sharp inhale. Then the room went completely still. Not murmuring, not whispering. Still. Because abuse, when it's quiet, is easy to deny. But when it's amplified, it changes shape. My father moved first. He stepped toward the speaker. Elena, turn that off, he said evenly, like he was asking me to adjust the thermostat. I didn't. I let the entire 4 minutes and 18 seconds play. Every breath, every calculated sentence, every sound of my brother trying not to cry too loudly. When it ended, I picked up the microphone again. This is what discipline sounds like in our house, I said. No theatrics, no shaking voice, just fact. Someone in the back stood up and walked out. Then another. Then 3 more. Pastor Whitmore didn't move. He just stared at my father. And for the first time in my life, my father looked looked small. The unraveling. The board meeting happened 2 nights later. Emergency session. Closed doors. I wasn't invited, but Lucas was. So was my mother. I waited in my apartment, staring at my phone. At 11:47 p.m., it rang. Lucas's voice was different. Not lighter, but steadier. They asked Mom if it was real, he said. And she said yes. 2 simple letters. Yes. That was the moment everything tipped. Not the recording. Not the public humiliation. My mother choosing a full sentence. The college fund. The next morning, Lucas logged into his college account. Balance, $0. Transfer completed at 6:13 a.m. Destination, Carrington Construction operating account. My father hadn't hesitated. He hadn't waited to see how things would settle. He had punished first. I expected to feel rage. Instead, I felt confirmation. Control was the only language he spoke fluently. Paper trails. I filed for a restraining order within a week. Not because I thought he would show up at my apartment, but because documentation creates gravity. My medical records were attached. The audio file was attached. A written statement from Lucas. When the judge reviewed the materials, she didn't look surprised. She looked tired. Temporary order granted. Hearing scheduled. My father hired an attorney the same day. Reputation war. Rumors evolved. Now I wasn't unstable. I was vindictive. A daughter trying to destroy her father's legacy. Anonymous emails arrived at my hospital. Is this the kind of nurse you employ? Family drama doesn't belong in healthcare. My supervisor called me in. Closed door. Soft voice. We support you, she said, but this may get louder before it gets quiet. She wasn't wrong. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No grand speeches. No dramatic gasps. Just fluorescent lighting and procedural language. My father sat at the opposite table, hands folded, composed. His attorney argued. Strict parenting has been mischaracterized. Family disagreements have been weaponized. When it was my turn, I didn't look at him. I described patterns, not emotions. Dates, ER visits, specific phrases he used. Control thrives in vagueness, so I gave specifics. Then Lucas spoke. His voice cracked once. He didn't apologize for it. The judge granted a 1-year protective order. My father's jaw tightened. That was all. The church split. First Covenant fractured quietly. Half the board resigned within 2 months. Donations dropped. Attendance dipped. My father stepped down voluntarily. Public statement. Focusing on family healing. The phrasing almost made me laugh. Almost. My mother. She moved into a rental condo across town. 2 bedrooms. Neutral carpet. No symmetrical hedges. The first time I visited, she seemed unsure where to stand, like the air wasn't arranged properly. We sat at her kitchen table. No raised voices. No closed doors. I should have stopped it, she said finally. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sobbing. Just truth. Yes, I replied, because forgiveness without honesty is just performance. She nodded. I was afraid, she said. I know, I answered. That didn't erase anything, but it named it, and naming something reduces its power. The lawsuit. 3 months later, a letter arrived. My father was suing me for defamation. Claim, the recording was edited. Claim, financial harm. Claim, emotional distress. I almost admired the consistency. If control slips, escalate. But here's the part he didn't calculate. The ER documentation surfaced publicly during preliminary discovery. Multiple notations. Multiple years. Patterns. His attorney requested mediation within weeks. The lawsuit dissolved quietly. No apology. Just withdrawal. Lucas. The college fund never returned. But something else did. Agency. He applied for scholarships. Grants. Took a part-time job. Moved into a dorm with borrowed furniture and stubborn pride. On move-in day, he hugged me again. This time, he didn't ask if I'd come back for him. He knew I had. The unexpected cost. Here's what no one talks about. When you expose the truth, you don't just lose the abuser. You lose the version of your life where things might have been different. There were nights I lay awake wondering, if I had stayed quiet, would it have been easier? For him, yes. For Lucas, no. For me, I don't think survival is the same thing as living. The letter. 6 months after the hearing, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address needed. I recognized the handwriting. 3 paragraphs. No apology. Just this. You've made your choices. I hope one day you understand why I did what I did. I read it once. Then I placed it back in the envelope. Some people never learn a new language. They only repeat the one they know. The soundproof house. A year later, the restraining order expired. He never contacted me again. Carrington Construction downsized. Not bankrupt. Just smaller. Less visible. My mother started volunteering at a shelter. Quiet work. No stage. Lucas calls me every Sunday, not out of obligation, just habit. And me? I still work trauma nights. When patients flinch at raised voices, I notice. When someone says, "It wasn't that bad," I listen closer, because I know what quiet damage sounds like. It sounds reasonable, measured, explained. It sounds like love, if you've been trained to hear it that way. But here's what I learned. Soundproof houses don't stay silent forever. Eventually, something echoes. And when it does, the truth is louder than you think.